Welcome back into Lowcountry Money Talk. If you're just joining us, we have talked about inflation, we have talked about vacation, that rhymes.
Oh, that sounds good.
And retirement. Well, that one didn't rhyme, but it's important. So, in the last segment, Phil really helped us unpack inflation and what it is, how did we get here, and a little bit about how we can get out of it. But let's talk about that more because we want to take a look ahead now. All right, so what is going to be done about inflation and what does it mean?
Sure. So to get out of inflation, we talked about earlier, Jessa, how we get there, you know, supply and demand, too much money in the system, not enough goods to buy. So what the Federal Reserve is doing is raising interest rates. So they're raising the interest rates to kind of slow down the demand side of things.
Right.
So they're thinking as we raise interest rates, it kind of slows everything down, and then maybe that'll give us a chance to get this inflation back down to like 1.4. You know, that's where it was a while back. So when we hear the Fed chair say softish landing, though, it's not really convincing.
Right.
So what happened a week ago was he came out, he raised rates 0.5%, he spoke, and he said a softish landing, and the stock market went crazy on the downside.
Right.
Didn't like it.
Didn't like it.
Yeah. So some people are saying, well, you really need to raise rates even higher. So in the 70s, 80s, the interest rates, some people may remember, our viewers, you know, you were paying 17, 18% for a mortgage.
That sounds like an enormous amount
But
right now.
inflation was 16, 17%.
Right.
So a lot of people say, hey, to beat inflation, you have to get the interest rates up over the inflation
You have
number.
to, okay, so well, if we're at 8%-ish, we'll start adding ish to more things. We're at 8%-ish on inflation, that means interest rates gotta go
Yeah.
higher.
Well, so if you look at this increase of 50 basis points, the federal rates, the Fed rates, bank to bank, they're still under 1%. So some people are saying you should have came out with 0.75% right off the bat, and a lot of people are thinking in June it's going to be 0.75 or 75 basis points instead of 50.
So we might be heading that way. And that starts bringing out the R word, right? So let's talk about the R word, recession, and what are your thoughts there?
Okay, so back in the day, Volcker, he was the one that was kind of running the Fed. So we're talking all the way back in Jimmy Carter in these days, okay? So he said, look, we're going to deal with the pain now. I'm raising these rates through the roof. We're going to have some pain, then we're going to get it under control. And then you had like Ron Reagan and all that stuff. The economy really took off. But he jumped right in on it. And so a lot of people are like, I don't know if this Fed is going to be aggressive enough.
Yeah.
So even then, by raising those rates, the Federal Reserve caused a recession. And the only thing that we hope is that when that happens, that it's short-lived.
Right.
You know, we can get in and out of it pretty quickly. But when you have the leader saying something like softish, and then I think he spoke again this week, and he even got a little bit harder on that. He says, I cannot guarantee that we won't have a recession. So he's even, you know, this is the one that originally told us that inflation was temporary. So there's a lot of credibility issues there with the Fed. So the market is really jittery right now because there's a credibility issue and there's not a lot of trust going that way.
And it's starting to look recession-ish.
It could be. You know, some bank executives are saying it's going to be next year. Some people are saying, no, we're already in it. You know, with the first quarter, we were down. So we could actually be in it now. If this quarter ends down, usually we're looking in the rearview mirror by the time we know.
By the time we know. Well, it feels like it. I'll tell you that, at least for some folks I know for sure.
Sure.
Okay, so we've really just kind of walked through the mechanics of everything and how the supply and demand work and, you know, what can be done about it, how we got here, and, you know, potentially then what is ahead in our near future. We have one more segment for you here on this show to really dive into these topics and how it affects you and your money. So we hope you'll stick around. We'll be right back.